Good thing.
Namo fundamental teacher Sakyamuni Buddha. Namo fundamental teacher Sakyamuni Buddha. Namo fundamental teacher Sakyamuni Buddha. The unsurpassed, deep, profound, subtle, wonderful Dharma in 100,000 million eons is difficult to encounter. Now that I've come to receive and hold it within my sight and hearing, I vow to fathom the dust once to an actual meaning.
All right, thank you very much. We continue our study. So we're done with the 18 kind of wrong view. 80 kind of wrong view regarding to the past. Now we go ahead and learn about the future. There were 44 kind of wrong view regarding the future. Okay, let's see. Okay, let's see. Oh. Oh, in here they did not say each one of them. Oh my goodness. This English doesn't have the detail. Oh, I thought this is habit. That's not good. Yeah, let me see how come this is so short. Okay, let me, give me 1 second. Okay, go ahead.
There are monks, some ascetics, and Brahmins who are speculators about the future, having fixed views about the future, and who put forward various speculative theories about the future in 44 different ways. On what basis, on what grounds do they do so? There are amongst some ascetics and Brahmins who proclaim a doctrine of conscious post-mortem survival and do so in 16 different ways. On what basis? Wrong view, numbers 19 through 34. They declare that the self after death is healthy and conscious, and 1, material, 2, immaterial, 3, both material and immaterial.
Okay, stop right there. Stop right there. Let's say that. We say that the self after death is healthy and consciousness. Do you understand what do you mean? Hear me?
This book's too hard to read.
They say that self after death is healthy and consciousness.
Now I understand the consciousness part, because the consciousness is the part that actually leaves the body, but I'm not sure about what they're saying about healthy.
Okay, basically they believe there is a cell, maybe they call it soul, right? It's healthy and conscious. That means it's not unconscious. That means it's opposite of unconscious, but this is conscious. That means it know, right? That means the cell after that is healthy and know and recognize, be able to know. And the first one is material. Do you know what does it mean?
So material would mean like physical, like they physically exist.
Yeah. That means they believe this is the view. There are 16 views relate to this, right? So the first one is they say that okay, all the 16 views they believe that the cell after that is healthy and conscious, right? The first one is they say that not only concept, but it's material. That means it really exists in a form, right? In a form. It really exists in a form, in a physical form. That's what they believe. Okay, that is the first one. Thang Thing, you understand that so far? Thang Thing?
I think so. Yeah, material that is physical.
Hmm.
Yeah.
But do you hear any other religion say something like this? Hemi?
No, not that I'm aware of. I've not heard anybody say that there's a physical form afterwards. Even like when they talk about a soul, it's more of just like an energy, not an actual physical form.
Hmm. Okay, basically this one is a material, and the second one is immaterial. That means it's not a material. It's not really physically exists, right? But even though it's immaterial, it's come from some kind of energy. Is that the right view? I mean, what do you think?
Well, it's got to be a wrong view because it's listed under this topic of wrong views. But it's confusing to me because I would think even when you talk about the consciousness and the karma leaving the body, that it would be some type of energy.
Okay. So let me show you this. Okay, let me actually explain in this way. Hopefully you would understand it. Okay, let's see. Do I have a consonant here somewhere? I should have a picture of a consonant. I did not have it. Okay. Oh, I do, but that's good. Okay, here. When we still alive, right? You see all the eight consciousness we call eight consciousness. That is the stream of consciousness. You understand what is the stream consciousness, right? Tell me.
Yes.
That means it's flowing, right? It constantly flow, right? Based on the condition from the outside and also condition inside. That means the data, or we call the consonant data inside the alaya consonant. Those two conditions, it will make the consonant flowing within a consciousness. And do you see anything of this have any form, any material? Thăng Thiền, Thăng Thiền, what do you think?
The question is, do you talk about material and consciousness?
Okay, let me repeat one more time, and make sure you understand that before we discuss. So basically, we have eight consonants, right? And these eight consonants are the flow of consonants, and those flow of consonants triggered by the two different conditions. One is external. That means from the first five consonants, we take in whatever the data from the outside world. That is the external condition. And also, we also have the the consonant data inside the alaya consonant. This is also trigger, and those that is also become the condition. It trigger the flow of the consciousness. Do you understand so far?
Yes.
Did you see anything within the flow of the consonant? Anything is called material.
I don't think physical material? No.
What about you, Tammy?
No, I don't either. I don't see this flow as material. I see it again as immaterial because it's the flow. I still see it as like a flow of energy.
Uh-huh. Okay, the flow of energy. In this flow of energy, did you see anything that it represents for the self? Even though it's consciousness, right? It's consciousness, but anything in those consciousness is called the self. Anything we call the self?
So the parts would be what we call the self, like the faculties, the eyes, the ears, the nose, the tongue, the body, those would all be. And then the mind consciousness that's associated with, or not the mind, the mana consciousness that's associated with the ego, we would consider that self too, I would think.
Mm-hmm. So the cell in here is, yeah, just like you just said. And although the cell, you remember, we have the body of us, we have the five aggregate, right? That means the form, the feeling, the perception, the mental formation, and the consciousness. Each one of that we claim as the cell because we did not see it impermanent. Therefore, we attach at the cell, but the consonant itself does not have any cell. Only the cell come from what? Come from our attachment. So there is no such thing called cell, right? Such thing called cell. And remember, the consonant itself, even though within the body, it's not the material. It's immaterial, or we can call the energy flow or whatever. Okay. But let's say the immaterial, the second one, you see that the second one, they say that immaterial, right? Immaterial. Even though the consciousness is immaterial, but is there anything immaterial consciousness is considered the self? No. Because the self only due to our attachment to the five aggregate, right? The form, the feeling, the perception, the mental formation, and the consciousness. Mm. So that means, therefore, that's why it's wrong view. Even the immaterial also wrong view. Does that make sense to you, Tammy, so far?
Yes, that makes sense. So the immaterial would be the wrong view because they're talking about self. And since self would all be a physical thing, then immaterial would be not, because it's consciousness was what is immaterial, the energy.
Yeah, because there is no such thing. When we're talking about a cell, that means the cell always permanent and always exists, right? That's what we call a cell. But those cells is not applicable to this thing, right? So this is the wrong view because in Buddhism, our phenomenon are no cell, right? There no. That means are no cell. That means cellless. And the same thing with the number three, right? Both material and immaterial. Because the material is not applicable and immaterial is not applicable to the self, do you think both material and immaterial also apply to the self? What do you think? Tell me, what do you think?
Well, since self itself is wrong, then, and you're dealing with non-self, then both material and immaterial will be a wrong view because the self is really non-existent.
Yeah. Because the self because we know that the first two is already wrong, automatically the third one will be wrong too. What about the number 4? If they say neither material or no immaterial, what do you think? Thăng Thiện.
Yeah, I think it's neither material nor material is real. This is no self.
No. What they said is neither material nor immaterial. That means it's none of the above, right? It's not material. It's not immaterial. Is that considered to be the self?
I guess yes.
Well,
It's not material or non-material.
that means neither of them is that considered to be the self.
I'm not quite sure.
What do you think about this, Tammy?
Well, the self after death, the self itself is non-existent. So after death, it's definitely non-existent. So if you're saying it's neither material nor immaterial, it's really just non-existent. So you can't say either one of those are true because it just doesn't exist in general.
Okay, then what about okay? You know, in the formless realm, right? The highest one they call the neither thought or no thought, right? That is the highest realm. But they consider that as the self. They attach to that, and that is the self notion. The notion of self attached to the needed thought or no thought. That I think the highest form realm. Yeah, let me see. Let me show you. In the formless. In the formless. Okay, in the formless, this is heaven of neither thought, no non-thought, right? This is the same thing with the neither material, no immaterial. It's similar. But this one is a little bit different than here. No, it's similar. So let me, I'm about to run out of power. Let me put in my phone. Okay. Okay. So that's why in here, look at this. In here, right here, they say that neither thought, no non-thought. And you know what? Due to they attach to this at the cell, the notion of the self, therefore they still stuck in the death and rebirth cycle. That's what we call the wrong view. When they have the wrong view, they still remain in the death and rebirth cycle. If they have the right view, they will not be in here. Does that make sense to you, Tammy?
So it seems then it would be still immaterial because it's still at that point, even though they don't have form, they're still energy.
No, but
Is
in
that
here,
right?
no. In here, they have 4 different heavens. Okay, the first heaven we call the heaven of boundless space, because when they do the meditation, they contemplate on the space, and the space become very wide, and that means become boundless. That means no space. That is the first state of this is the first heaven for that kind of practitioner. Okay. The second one is the heaven of boundless consciousness. That means when we contemplate on the space, it also it's no boundary, right? And then they move on to contemplate on the consciousness, and they also know that the consciousness is also no boundary, it's boundless. because they do not have wisdom. Therefore, they attach to those things. And the Buddha, the main teaching of the Buddha is focus on the mindfulness. That means the current state, regardless of future or past, regardless of finite or infinite, regardless of beginning or ending. Buddha doesn't care about those things. He only cares about the current moment. Do you know why it's so important to be mindful? Tell me.
Mindful of the current moment, because that's the only time you can make any change or do anything in, is the current moment.
Because when we have any kind of a contemplation like this, our mind will not become purified. So, but when we focus on the current moment, regardless whatever the thought of the future or past come up, we don't follow them. We just come back to our current state of the moment, of the current state of the mind at the moment, at the current moment. And that's why it's so important, because we do not attach to anything. Therefore, our mind becomes very pure. And therefore, when we have the pure mind, we be able to see everything. That just like that, we don't. Our view is not stuck at any dot, any specific thing, right? Therefore, our view become very wide and very clear. Does it make sense? I hope I made some sense to you.
That makes sense. What I've been trying to get better at this here recently, so I won't like go back into the past or go into the future, or try not to anyways. When I do it, but when I catch myself doing it, then I'll let it go through doing a mantra or something. Because if you can't go back in the past, because what you're doing when you're going back in the past, you're trying to change the past, or you think I should have said that, or should have did this, or you think about what you're going to do in the future. I'm going to say this to him when I see him, or I'm going to do that. But it's all just a waste of energy, because you can't change what's happened in the past or in the future. Like, you're not going to end up saying those things anyway. So you're just wasting your energy, and you're bringing yourself down into suffering. So if you can just be in the present moment and try to be peaceful in the present moment, it's going to calm your mind. I don't know about hopefully make it more pure and be able to see more stuff eventually. But in the beginning, just at least be at a place of peace.
That's right. So that means that the reason the people who have a lot of depression, because they hold on the past. The past feeling, the past, the thought. When they think about the past, right? They always holding on to their thought, holding on to those feelings about the past. And also the people who stuck in this kind of depression, they also think about the future, right? That means the perception. That means they frame themselves at the prison within those feeling and thought. They cannot be able to escape themselves. That they will become very terrified, and they don't even know. And that means when the people depressed so much, right? They talk to themselves, and they also have their own imagination, right? And those things it harm them more instead of help them. That's why go to the current state. That means be mindful at the current moment. It's very important. That's why when we do the meditation, we always bring out our inhale and exhale to the current state of the meditation, right? At the current moment, to counting or to focus on our inhale and exhale. That is the most important part. Therefore, when we don't attach to anything in the future or in the past, Therefore, there is no self. The notion of the self it no longer exists when we focus on the current moment. Does that make sense to you, Tammy? I hope that.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay, you understand so far, Sandeep?
Yeah.
So it's important. That's why the Buddha teaching becomes very beautiful when we deeply understand the Dhamma. And you know what? A lot of outside practitioner from the outside, the external religion, they do not have this kind of teaching. They don't know how to walk on the right path. So they will not be able to attain the enlightenment. Yeah. So that's important. Okay. So we also know this. So it doesn't matter what kind of attachment is, whatever the attachment is, material, both material and material need of this, they use this as the self, and that is the wrong view in Buddhism. Okay? Finite and infinite, or both finite and infinite. So the same thing right here. In the form realms, right? That means the space become finite. But when they go to the formless, they go into the formless realm, the space become boundless. That means finite or infinite, or both finite and infinite. It's just the notion of the attachment of the self, right? That is the attachment. Because this is not in the current. This is not in the current mindful. This is not the mindfulness state. They are not in the current moment. They always attached to this stuff. Regardless of finite or infinite, the mind is always on those things. It does not help them to be in the state of the current moment. And that is the killer right there. I hope I explained in this way you understand, right? I hope so. Right, Tammy?
Yes.
It's not easy to explain this thing because this is not what you can see, right? We cannot see this thing. So it's very tough to explain because we are not in the state of the meditation that we can do, right? So, but we try our best to make sense that we can have the right view. Neither finite nor infinite, the same thing with this, right? Neither this thing, the same thing, the same concept. So of the uniform perception, just like here, the boundless consonant, and the consonant is also we using the consonant to have the thought, right? So any kind of thought, right? Uniform perception, that means the thinking. The thinking is always changing, so it's impermanent. So it's not. That means if they attach to the perception at the self, that means that is the wrong view. Because from the five aggregate, the form, feeling, perception, mental formation, and consonant, those things, we attach to those things as a self. That is the wrong view because they are impermanent, and because due to the impermanent, they are no self. Of the very perception, doesn't matter one perception or very different kind of perception, the same concept. Of limited perception also did. When we're talking about the perception, that means thought, right? That is the thought, and any kind of thought, doesn't matter what kind of thought, right? They attach to those things at the self because the thought inside the five aggregates, it's already impermanent, right? When it's impermanent, that means it's no self. Okay. Unlimited perception doesn't matter. It's unlimited perception or not. It's still no self, right? Wholly happy. This is about the feeling. I think this is also about the feeling. Wholly miserable. If they attach to the feeling of happy or miserable at the self, just like the people who depressed, right? That is what they did, right? They attach to the feeling and they base on their feeling or their thought to make the decision. Is that a good thing to base on your feeling and your thought to make the decision? Is that a good thing to do? Thang Thiện.
Guess now you have to focus on the present moment.
But is that a good thing to base on the feeling and based on the thought that we have and we believe in those things so strong and we make the decision? Is that a good thing?
Sometimes when people say something, we have to think before we act.
Mm-hmm. But if we are holding the fixed view of the thought and the feeling, and we base on those things, we make the decision. Is that a good thing? Yeah. Okay.
It's always changing.
Yeah, always changing. Tell me, what do you think?
Right, just like you said, since it's always, the feelings are always changing, so you would never want to base a decision on a feeling because it's just going to change anyways. And also the perception is going to change because with more information, your thoughts change all the time.
Remember, our feeling, it will deceive us, right? It will deceive us. And you know what? And therefore, when we make the wrong decision, oh my goodness, we put ourselves in miserable state. Oh my goodness, we don't want that, right? So that's what happened to the one who depressed, who have a lot of depression. They always in that state. They in that looping. They cannot be able to get out of the loop because they always holding on the feeling and make the decision, holding on the thought and make the decision. And that is they put themselves in trouble, deep trouble. Okay, so I hope this will make some sense to us, right? Both neither the same thing for the feeling, so it doesn't matter. So any kind of attachment, even to the nothing, right? When you attach to nothing, is that a good thing? Tell me.
So since you're supposed to be practicing non-attachment, it seems, in theory, it seems like it would be a good thing, but you have to have something, not to attach to, but some kind of like base, I guess you could call it, not really attachment, but base. And this was kind of the hardest thing, one of the hardest things for me, kind of talking about non-thought, like not to trust your thinking, not to trust your thoughts. You all said that multiple times. And that was hard for me because you got to trust in something. So if you can't trust your thoughts, then what do you have left? But now I'm starting to kind of understand it more because just like we talked about, feelings and perception are always changing. So that would mean your thoughts are changing, and your thoughts can never be accurate because you never completely understand exactly what's going on. You're only seeing your side, you're not seeing their side, and nobody really even sees anything clearly. So I'm starting to be able to accept that more, not to trust in your thoughts, but it seems like there should be something that you can have that you can trust in or attach to a certain extent.
You remember yesterday we learned about the depression based on the cognitive distortion, right? They are instead of we say I should, we should say I can try the best, right? Or whatever. Right? Those things, you know what? Yes, we can use our thought our gut feeling to make the decision. You know what? But do not hold, do not attach to those things. Okay, hold on. I have some problem. Okay, hold on. You can hear me? Can you hear me? Can you hear me now? Hear me? Can you hear me? Okay, hold on. Can you hear me now?